I wanna try and take in all the highs, embrace them for more than a moment's time. I want you, please don't move when I push you away. I know I contradict myself some days, but will you ride the lows with me?
Welcome to Mental Health News Radio. I am your host, Kristin Walker. Our goal is to help discussions about mental health be a regular part of your daily life, no different than discussions about physical health. Mental illness can be a topic of discussion under the umbrella of mental health, along with so many other topics. This show is the original program on mentalhealthnewsradionetwork.com. Our network of shows are played in over 180 countries and cover more topics under that umbrella than you can possibly imagine. We were talking about mental health long before it became cool and popular to talk about, and thank goodness it has become so popular. We have incredible guests, advocates, patients, experts, people. Thank you for tuning in and enjoy our intro music, a song named Lows, written by Aubrey Toon. You can find her music at www.aubreytoone.com.
That night when I started praying, I cried. Will you ride the lows with me? Will you ride the lows with me? When I'm down, my vision gets blurry.
Jose. I'm so glad that you're on the show. It's been a long time.
It feels like being reunited. I'm so excited.
Everyone, just so you know, this is Jose Rosario from the Phoenix Empowered. And Jose, please tell everyone, we're going to do it at the end too, but tell everyone what that is and who you are. And you have 10 seconds. Go. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Take as long as you need.
Thank you. Thank you. But what a good exercise, right? In essence, the Phoenix Empowered is the belief that we tell people to rise up, to heal, to be the versions of themselves that best align with who they want to be. And yet, like, the world often doesn't give us that opportunity, right? It gives us messages of you can't, you won't, you're limited. And so we believe that if we want people to rise, we have to empower them to do so. So our work in the mental health space is about amplifying the stories that aren't being told in minoritized communities. And then when we hear those stories, responding, right, through training and education to be like, how do we make a more inclusive global mental health conversation?
Mm, I love it. And just to add clarity, because
Yeah,
there are actually people that don't understand what minoritized
yeah,
means or what that encompasses. So I don't think my listeners are that, but you never know. So let's
sure.
talk about talk about that.
Well, you picked something that I'm pretty nerdy about, so I'm glad you asked me the question. Minoritized is sort of the evolution from the word marginalized. And I use it very intentionally, right? I once heard somebody say, but people of color, queer people, people with disabilities, we don't exist on the margins. We could exist in Fortune 500 companies, we could exist in government, we could exist in the classroom. We are placed on the margins. And so the word minoritized comes from this idea of minoritization, the idea that people are seen as less than systemically and then placed on the margins of society, but we're not inherently born there. That's a social categorization. And I love that sort of more active approach. And I think it speaks to how folks can and should subvert the system to exist.
Mm, absolutely. Thank
Mm,
you for that because it seems so surreal. We're not going to go political, or if we do, we will
sure.
skirt the edges of
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
I just think it's interesting how right now things that were done to put more people in those kinds of categories are
Yeah,
happening at an uptick that is astonishing right
yeah.
now today on August 4th, 2025.
Yeah, yeah. It's a humanitarian crisis, right? Because these categories aren't abstract. These are people's lived experiences, and people are being told, hey, we don't want you to exist publicly, or hey, these experiences that you're having, they're not actually real. You get the same things everybody else gets. And the reality is, every single person on earth does not have the same level of access. We all have moments where it's easier for us to access and moments where it's more difficult. Like that's just the human experience.
Mm.
Sorry, I get all fired up. We're gonna have a great time.
Yeah, I love this because this is exactly what needs to be discussed today. It made me think of someone that I just met through social media, and I'm pretty off social media, but I go to one place
Mm,
where I go under a pen name and I can be really creatively free there, which is really nice. And I've met a few people there and a few people there that are posting a lot about their homelessness. They're kind of the homeless reporter on the street, reporting on what's going on. And
mm.
one of them has autism and ADHD, and he does something called NATS, rants, like GNAT,
Oh, never
NATS
heard of it.
rants. And it's fascinating to hear him talk about the what he is seeing out there because
Mm,
he's brave enough to go and, talk to everybody and film it. And the sheer terror at the orders that have come down about criminalizing homelessness. And
yeah.
that means for all of us, not just him, all
Hmm.
of us.
Yeah. And what is the psychological impact of penalizing somebody's inability to access housing? Not even thinking about how potentially traumatic and frankly, obviously psychological distressing, like psychologically distressing rather, that could be to be unhoused. And then we're going to make someone feel as though they are doing something wrong. It just makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I think about, when I'm watching his videos, I see, yeah, you go through and they do these sweeps and all of the things that you like your sleeping bag, your pillow, your food, your money, your documents are all absconded with, and you don't often, more than often, you don't get any of that back.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're finally let out of
Mm-hmm.
prison or wherever it is that you're housed, and I put air quotes around that,
Yeah.
as you've gotten off the street, and then you're back starting where? Because now everything that you had to identify yourself and all the things you could manage to collect are now gone.
Yeah, yeah. And not this is not a marketing ploy because if you're listening out there, one thing you should know about me is that I'm not here to sell you anything. This is my life's blood. Like this is what I believe. And I believe that the reason TPE exists is to tell these stories. But again, I think we can't just stop there and be like, what a sad story this is. Like we have a responsibility as mental health providers, as practitioners to say, how do we support our clients in not suffering? How do we support our clients in accessing humanity? And I practice from the lens of a radical healing perspective. And radical healing scholars, we talk a lot about like hope, healing versus coping, and the idea of like when we teach people to cope, we tell them like, let's cope with the fact that you're struggling. But healing takes it a step further and says we have to address the systems that perpetuate suffering. Otherwise, we're just telling somebody, suck it up and get through it and get through it and get through it with nothing ever changing. So when somebody's unhoused, for example, it's not enough to say, let's give them coping skills. We have to address the basic needs that are not being given, you know. So it just moves the needle a little bit more.
Yeah, it's so fascinating in these deeper levels of understanding things like
Mm,
neurodivergence as an example, or
yeah.
that it's that in on the wide spectrum that it is that we all are on.
Mhm. Yeah.
There are different levels of how you cope.
Hmm.
And this whole punishment because you're not at this level, I always think, well, who determined what the hell that level was anyway? You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right, right. Yeah. What is quote normal, right? Nothing is quote normal because each person has their own experience.
Exactly, exactly. How are you feeling in terms of the temperature around the work that you do and around yourself personally with with what is your life every day?
Yeah. I'm about to be a rolling cliche, and I say rolling because I use a wheelchair. But for me, it's a dialectic. It's a both and. I think I'm feeling very tired and overwhelmed, but I think on the same token, I've been saying this a lot lately. Everything that is happening in the world is things that we've experienced before. And instead of allowing our mission to quiet down, we're going to level up, right? And so I've been feeling kind of invigorated and finding new ways to engage in storytelling, new ways to engage in education. And we have a lot of projects that we've been working on to really say, okay, if we're going to hold this space of identity and mental health and be at that intersection, we're going to do so loudly and proudly. And so I get my energy from that, but I think I'm finding that there are also moments where I need the quiet to be like, hey, recharge, because there is a lot coming at us all at once.
Yeah, when you are super, super sensitive like we are, I mean,
Hmm.
I don't even know. I just am. That's just the way it
Yeah.
is. So we tend to feel the shift in energy and whatever's going on before some big news comes out. And I'm
Mm,
not saying that's, psychic abilities, nor am I saying that that doesn't exist. I'm just saying the sensitivity of it and a lot of us that are neurodivergent, our ability to pattern recognize is
mm,
extraordinary. And so a lot of that is just picking up, oh, energetic patterns. And,
yeah.
that every 80 years, something like this kind of what we're dealing with now
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah. And frankly, right, like if your rights have been threatened before, I feel like you're always hyper vigilant, right? If you have been made to feel less than or different, and we have made different feel like a bad word, then of course you're going to be hyper vigilant, right? Of course you're going to be like, can I be safe? I think humans are often striving for some kind of safety of like, I am allowed to exist and not only exist, but thrive. And I think we're sort of lacking in both domains right now as a world.
Yeah, and we're really at a peak point of um, it's not even about that you don't exist. It's that people actively don't even want you to.
Mm,
It's either that or it's such a dance around. I don't want to see you, monkeys, the hands over your ears, hands
yeah.
over your eyes, hands over your mouth, about a lot of things wrapped
Mm,
up in pearl clutching and rage
hmm.
coming from whatever direction. And yet we're still here. You're still rolling around. I'm
Yeah.
still walking around saying
Yeah.
what I gotta say. So I'm sorry, but you're not going to be able to blight us out with your
Mm,
blindfolds and your earmuffs
yeah.
and your, gags.
Yeah. And I've been thinking about that too a lot lately about like how to take up space. And what I come back to is the inner child and joy. And this is not a novel concept, right? Joy is resistance in its own way. Recently, somebody reminded me of the quote, protest in the mornings and dance in the evenings, the idea that both have to exist. And so I've been like going to see musicals and listening to music and dancing in my apartment. Why? Because I'm also allowed to tap into joy. And frankly, we need to. Like that's how we find hope. And so I think if we are in a place right now, if you're listening out there and you're in a place of feeling, I'm not heard, I'm not seen, I'm scared, I encourage you to hold that and say, can I also find a moment of joy? It doesn't erase the fear, but can both exist because you deserve it. You deserve that joy in the face of the things that maybe are feeling like they're being taken away from you.
Yeah, finding that joy. Oh my gosh. And
Yeah.
whatever way I did I wrote something about whether you're a dam person, and I mean DAM, or a
Hmm.
tributary person.
Mm,
So are you someone that when anybody's way that they are is going to hit up against you and you're just a wall of nope, no water can come through here, no water shall pass. Your fluidity and whatever that means for you cannot go past this wall.
mm,
And then there are tributary people. Those are people like me and you where we just feed out, the water flows, and so it seems like there's a lot of us and a lot of
mm,
that, and
mm,
we're having to figure out how that water, just like the one single little seed that pokes out of a concrete structure and
mm,
it's
mm,
growing out of that. And we are like, oh, there's a crack. Look, something
mhm.
grew. Let's find our way with the water
Yeah.
through it.
Very. Right.
Feels like that's what we're having to do a lot of.
Yeah. And then finding ways to replenish, right? I've heard people say like nobody checks in on the helpers. The reality is we should be, right? We should be checking in on each other. But even if we aren't, reminding yourself that you can't do everything all at once. We can't be everywhere. There are other people watering. There really are. I mean, I'm struck by how many people are saying like, I'm gonna keep supporting the people I care about and be a decent and kind human being. That matters.
It does. It does. And it doesn't matter where you're doing it from, whether you're the homeless reporter or you are
Hmm.
a king in a castle. Everybody has this responsibility. I certainly feel, I mean, was I powered up about this network and about, talking about mental health? Because when I started even just doing my podcast, you didn't talk about mental health. If you did in a restaurant, everybody got quiet. And it was like, how people
Hmm.
used to go, cancer, because you
Yeah,
couldn't
yeah.
say cancer out loud.
Hmm.
Well, Dad, now you can say mental health out loud and you can talk about disabilities and all these things. But now it feels like there's such a momentum to, oh, no, you are not going to silence us.
Hmm. Although I'm going to give you some flowers here for a second and just
Yeah.
say like I've been I have been both overtly and covertly fearful of is my version of healing justice and the work that TPE is doing because we are at the crux, at the crossover of identity and mental health. That is what we do. We work within minoritized communities to uplift those experiences.
Mm.
Is that safe? Is that dangerous? Are people
Yeah.
going to want to hear it? And so I'll be honest and say your network, right? The fact that you allow us to have a voice on your network and allow us to have these kinds of conversations, that matters, right? Because it creates a space where we can be safe enough to say, we're therapists and we have an ethical obligation to the well-being of all people. And if we're not doing that, there is a serious problem with our way that we're practicing.
I know it's so funny to hear you say the word allow. I know that you don't like apply that to me personally because to me
Mm.
it's like allow,
Yeah, yeah.
allow. But I
The
get
system,
why.
yeah.
No, I get why you use that word perfectly because
Yeah.
it isn't even about me allowing anything. It's about me as a media
Mm.
company being allowed to allow things.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a good point, right? It's like the process in which we are able to make decisions, and frankly, the ways in which we're able to reclaim our power, reclaim our voice. Absolutely.
I think I'm glad that I kind of took such a big step back from the attention that I was getting like in
Mm,
2018 and 2019. There was a lot of attention about the network. And then
yeah.
COVID came and that just sort of made everybody go, what? I don't even know where I am in space. What's going on? That kind
Uh,
of thing. I'm kind of glad because we can float under this radar and still keep our voices, but there isn't that spotlight isn't
mm,
there as much as it was. And so that gives us the freedom to allow things that something that if we were being controlled would probably put the kibosh on. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. And you know what? First of all, the pre-pandemic life feels like a lifetime ago.
Oh, yeah.
And for those of you who don't know our friendship, we have been doing this work for a while. And so, that pandemic time was also a time of reckoning, of awareness, of rising up, right? And so during that time, TPE got really busy too, because it
Yeah.
was a time of, all right, we have to act, we have to respond. But it's changed the notion of how we talk about identity and oppression and mental health. We have to be upfront because this newer generation of young people will call you out on your bullshit, right? They'll say like you're not being authentic.
Absolutely. And I'm here for it.
I love it.
Oh my God,
Yeah,
I love it so much. I mean,
yeah.
it's like what I tried to be in the 70s and the 80s when I was a kid, but that was like the 70s and 80s version of activism.
Mm,
And now it's even so much like fiercer and more intelligent
yeah,
and more emotional access
yeah, yeah.
because we've had all this allowance of talking about mental health and talking about differences in people and talking about, be
Hmm.
kind. And it doesn't matter how much rigidity keeps trying to stifle that, that has just bloomed. It's like
Yeah.
it's so part of our it's in our marrow now. There's no
Yeah.
squashing this. There just isn't. It's like you're trying to throw a rock at an ocean here. Like you cannot stop this wave that we've all helped build up. It's beyond the capacity to
Yeah.
stop it.
Yeah, and one of the things I'm finding in my dissertation, because for those of you listening, of course, it's not enough to be running a nonprofit. I have to also want to go get a PhD, but we are nearing the end. But one of the things that I am noticing is my conceptualization of what activism is has grown because when I'm asking people about how they're responding to collective levels of trauma, I'm hearing a lot of different responses, right?
Oh,
I'm
yeah, yeah.
hearing
Talk about that. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, some people are like, yes, I want to march in the streets and I want to protest. Some people are like, that's not safe for me. What is safe is I'm going to show my art and I'm going to engage in creativity. Or some people are like, I'm going to post on social media, not because I'm signaling anything, but because I want to invite conversation and invite people in or signal that I'm a safe person to talk to. And so everybody is sort of making decisions about where we can affect change. I really see it as like the ripples in the pond, and everybody has their own ripple happening. And I'm a big believer. You get enough ripples in that pond, we're gonna have a wave, right? And so it's interesting to see people taking back their power and recognizing like there are risks and people are navigating how do I do this in a way that feels right to me. So there's no one way, right, to engage in joy or engage in freedom or liberation. We all have to find the way that works for us, and there's no manual for this. But I think the one thing that has been consistent across all of my research is that humans do not heal in isolation. We need community. We need people to come to be like, this is painful. What can I do? What do I want to do? And how can we do things together? I think that is the important piece. We need each other in this moment.
We really do. We really do. I mean, I didn't think that anything would get me back on social media. I mean,
Oh,
honestly, I was
yeah.
just done. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I didn't post one thing in 2 years on Facebook, and I'm still not really on Facebook, but I found a different way to do
Mm,
it because to me, I think, okay, this makes sense. We're a digital, we're in a tech, we're this iteration of humankind is technological, right? So
yeah,
it makes sense to anchor digitally.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And having boundaries for yourself, right? Like I'm a big believer of don't check the news more than once a day. Nothing's going to change that drastically where you need to check the news more than once a day. And I mentioned to you that I have overtly been made to question my safety. And that comes in the form of people saying things like, you really should watch your back if you care about your funding, or people wanting to engage in debates about what's right and what's wrong. And frankly, my boundary is I won't engage with,
Mm.
navigating conversations about why you should care about other people. I'm going to focus on the people that need to be cared about. And if you want to go through your process of education, I'm happy to provide you resources, but you're not going to use me as your person to soundboard off of when it's harmful to me as an individual. Like there have to be boundaries.
Oh my gosh, that right there. Whenever I do a show now, thanks to the wonderment of I
Yeah.
run it through and I go, I've got it, really trained on me and what I think is important and all of
Yeah.
that. So it knows when I say pull out the best quotes from this particular show. And that one you just say one
Oh,
of them.
I'm glad that you're going to pull them out because let me tell you, I am so unscripted that I will not forget, I will not remember that I said this, right? It'll just be a thing that happened.
It'll be on a meme and you can always look at it and go, I said that.
I will never watch any of my talks or any of my podcasts. I can't do it. No,
I can't
but
either.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I,
Oh,
I I can I can now write and I can hear and read my own writing.
yeah,
I'm not up to where I can listen to my own podcast
yeah.
because I can't. It's too sensory overload for me. What is that for you? What is that like for you?
Yeah, I don't listen to my own podcast. I don't watch my talks. And that's something I do because I want to be present, and I feel like if I were to watch or if I were to listen, I would be so busy thinking about how I could have done better. And I never want this to feel polished. I want it to be real, right? Because at the end of the day, talking about the isms, racism, sexism, ableism, all of the isms, is not just some theoretical concept. It is real, it is embodied, it is lived. And I want that to just show. as truth. And so that's a line that I've held for myself. And, it's interesting you talk about writing because we were talking offline about how I've been writing. And it's so different, right? Like I've told my story, I've uplifted conversations about hate-based violence and trauma because that's what I do, and it's so different to sit back and be like, okay, like let's really dig deep into who I am and what's brought me to this moment. It's just been a lot of recognition of the fact that those of us who are in service of others, we sure go through a lot to get to that place, and if we're not taking care of ourselves, it can be detrimental to us.
I have really, and I feel like this is kind of happening for a lot of people right now. It's happening en masse. It's not
Yeah.
just pockets of people in the mental health food field. It's people kind of in pockets of everywhere.
Mm,
People are, it feels like I don't want to say leveling up because I don't want to give it any kind of hierarchy. So let me change that. They're expanding.
mm,
They're expanding the way that they believe about things, the way that they see the world. That's what I'm feeling. And a lot of people are feeling like, oh, I need to start writing now. And they're like, well,
mm,
I never have written a damn thing in my life. What am I doing? Or, it can be that much of a chasm, that they've
mm,
never written and suddenly they're writing a novel. It's really interesting to kind of see that going on too. It's it's a lot of individualized advocacy.
mm.
Are you
It's
seeing that too?
Yeah, it's the activism, right? Storytelling to me is activism. And, I think the process of writing allows us to really sit with the story, right? It's not like words where we say them and then they're in the ether. Now they're on a page and we're reading them and thinking about them. It's a much more analytical process.
Are you okay?
Yeah, sorry, I'm attuning. I just heard somebody, so I was making sure they were okay. Sorry.
No, no problem.
Yeah. The therapist is never off. I'm like,
It's
what was
never off.
that?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. Isn't that funny? I'm the same way.
Yeah.
There's a couple. They're so great. They do a Instagram called Neuro Duo, and they're autistic man, ADHD female, and they're so great. They're in New Zealand, and they did a show being about him, the autistic man, being super sensitive to sound,
Mm,
and him
hmm.
just sitting there, and all of a sudden he's like, "What is that? Where's that noise? What is it?" And I thought, "Oh my God, that's my mother."
And yet, right, like the things that would be seen as different can
Right?
also be seen as such moments of just perspective that can change and shift how people see things.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's talk about that, about shifts, and when you're working with people and you see someone, let's say they come in and they're pretty distorted internally.
Mm,
All they see is through the lens of other people's projections. And
mm,
and your job is to kind of help them clear off their glasses so that they see a little clearer and have some
yeah.
room inside to look at and have a different perspective. How do you, because there's a lot about self-care and oh, take a bubble bath and oh, do this and oh, do that. And that's kind of falling a bit like, okay, well, that was a shallow way to talk about something that's actually a lot more important and needs a little more nuance or a lot more nuance, a lot more detail. How do you pull that
Mm.
into someone that is so foggy inside that they just can't even see themselves clearly, let alone anybody else?
Yeah. Well, I think two things I'm going to say. And the first is touching on that notion of self-care. And, as a therapist, what I like to remind people is sometimes we glamorize self-care, right? We believe that self-care has to be the bubble bath and lighting the candles. Self-care can be, I'm getting out of bed and I'm brushing my teeth because I'm really struggling today.
Exactly.
Self-care can be, I'm gonna only nap for an hour because I know that if I nap for more than that, it's avoidance, right? And so I think we can engage and care for ourselves that is much more small and intentional than these more glamorized versions of self-care. And I think if we lean too heavily on I need to take a bubble bath or go on vacation, that leaves us on the day-to-day without any way to replenish. So I think
Mhm.
your point was just really important and I want to nail that home. I think to your point about, the distortions and sort of being stuck in these perceptions of yourself, a lot of the work I like to do is like, where'd you learn that? Where did you hear that? As babies, we don't come into the world with this knowledge of, I'm not a good person, I'm not enough, I'm this, I'm that, insert adjective here. Those are learned along the way. And so where did you learn that you weren't good enough, that you were unworthy, ugly, whatever that adjective is? Whose voice is that in? Because you heard it somewhere. And then as we do that, we start to question, well, does it have to be true? Can a thought just be a thought? Can I have the thought, I'm unworthy, without giving it all of the space in my brain? Can it exist and can I still do something for myself? And oftentimes we find that like we don't actually need to change the thought, right? Therapy is moving away from that. It's about acknowledging the thought can exist, but it's not in the driver's seat. The
Mm.
analogy I use all the time is like when you're driving on the highway and you see the exit sign for McDonald's, you're not going to pull off to McDonald's unless you're hungry or need a bathroom, right? Unless there is a need to follow the thought, we don't actually have to follow the thought. We can just keep driving.
Mm. Yeah, that is not therapy I got in the 80s. I will tell you that right.
It's not therapy you would have gotten, I think, 20 years ago, 10 years ago. I just don't think we were there, but we are now. Yeah.
That's what's so fascinating to me too, is how we evolve, just even in this therapeutic space,
Mhm.
how language has changed, how perspectives have changed,
Mhm.
how if you are cool with getting to the root of your own, I know they call it shadow work, but I call it my gotchas, right?
Mhm.
If you're someone that like I delight in figuring those things out, like I
Mhm.
want to know, I'm still doing that. That still came up. Ooh, let's unpack that and get into that because I want to know. But I've been going to therapy off and on since I was 12. So I think some of that is like it's trained in me to be that way. But
Mhm.
what I'm noticing is where I was early to going to therapy because it was
Uh,
1982, right? Nobody was really talking about going to
sure.
therapy then.
Yeah.
But now everybody is. And what I find is, oh, good. Now people are speaking the language I've been speaking for a long time. But even
Mhm.
with that, Jose, you and I had a discussion where I could not, I was so full of my own fog and distortion that I couldn't even see you clearly when I first
Mm.
met you
That's true. Yeah.
and how
Yeah.
much that has changed to today. So, where do you see that in terms of the mental health field? Like how people come at this differently from when you first started
Mm.
as a counselor?
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. When you and I met, which I think, gosh, that was 2017, I had 2017. Yeah. Wow. Time flies.
Yeah.
Um, at that time, there was a lot of fear for me. I was early in my career. I was talking about feeling different. I was talking about how, my experience as a person of color, queer person, and disabled person has made me into the therapist that I was. And I didn't have the language of radical healing and liberation at the time. What I had was this sense of fear, right? This sense of like, is this going to cost me my career?
Mm,
Because no one else was talking about these things, right?
yeah,
And the
you were an
way
early bird.
uh,
Yeah.
sometimes I wonder, yeah, how I even got to that place, but that was a moment of bravery that just I didn't even think I recognized back then. But, all of my training was it doesn't matter. Identity doesn't matter. Culture doesn't matter. What matters is like the treatment protocol, right? Very sciencey. And that's shifted for us. There are decades and decades and decades of research to talk about the ways in which minoritized groups experience trauma and harm and threats to psychological well-being that need to be addressed in very nuanced ways. And yet it wasn't mainstream. And I think what we're seeing now is people pushing back and being like, no, no, this old way of seeing things, right? The more traditional CBT approach, let's call it, is maybe not where we need to be. And, I am lucky that I'm coming into the field during this boom of mindfulness-based therapy that's all about where are your values, where do you want to be, how do we get there? But I'm already hearing the whispers of a new wave, right? That is much more multicultural and liberation focused. And I think it's coming. I think it's here, but I think we're going to start to see the pendulum swing. And my goal in life, and I've been thinking about this a lot, is to be a part of that and to mentor the next generation. It's wild to say that, right? Because I still feel like there's so much more I get to give, but the people are coming after us, and we have a responsibility to uplift them and say, hey, we were trailblazing, so you didn't have to. So like let's pick up this torch and do it together. Like let me support you in figuring out what your calling or your vocation is going to be.
I love that. I love that because instead of it being like, we got it, it's like, no, 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 no. I will take your hand
We don't got it. We
as
don't
you
got
pull
it.
me forward because you got it more than I do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You have it in different ways, and we all need to have it together because how can we do it if we're not together?
How amazing is it that we're seeing all of these just blatant? I mean, look, they've always been there, the attacks on minority culture, the attacks on anything different than whoever established what normal is.
Mm,
That's always been there. We're just seeing it with so much more coherence now,
yeah.
and it's unmasked. So, what's interesting is that at heightened levels of that, we also have at the same time such
Mm,
heightened levels of, yeah, yeah, all this stuff we've been learning, even scratching in the dark somewhat, even when what was
mm.
really always going on wasn't as clear as it is now, it still got baked in.
Yeah.
It got baked into the culture, and you can't, sorry, we're not going anywhere.
Yeah, and you know what? That makes me think, and I'm having this realization, I think, for the first time, or maybe at least for the first time publicly, this idea that like because there are those of us who have these experiences of minoritization, of feeling different, of feeling unheard, or of feeling like we don't fit the sort of classic model of psychological well-being, I think that has also allowed us to push the needle in a different way, where instead of it being the narrative of people of color have higher rates of this, or queer people have higher rates of this disorder because they're queer, we're able to say, actually, that comparison isn't helpful because unless we're talking about why, for example, queer folks have higher levels of suicidality, then we're not actually addressing the issue. And so, as a professor, when I'm teaching, adjuncting, I will talk about how the comparison across culture is not helpful unless we can understand the factors that are contributing to that disparity. And that's where a lot of my research and the research of the people that I am training with, right? We focus on those areas. How do we address the factors that are leading to harm in so many different communities?
Mm. I just feel like my life is covered in a way that feels so much more hopeful because, and I'm not saying this to blow smoke. I really
But
mean this, my
yeah.
friend. I feel very covered that you're out there doing what you do, you know?
Well, thank you. That means a lot because sometimes it's a lot. Sometimes it's a lot of work. And yeah, I mean, we also can't live in a deficit model, right? We can't live in the like higher rates of this, higher rates of that. We're all struggling and all crying in the corner and sobbing. It's like, no, we're also strong and we're also joyous and we're also passionate and we can be sassy and funny and like live in the fullness of life. It has to be all of it.
Yeah, I think we're figuring out that you can't be a healer and a giver and all of that and then lay down guilt tracks about taking time for yourself. Like you
Right.
just, those things, you cannot be the best healer ever
Yeah.
unless you're the best healer to yourself
Oh my gosh.
too.
Get rid of hustle culture. We do
Oh,
not need to be hustling. Go home, get some rest, recharge because the battle will continue and you are not good to anybody if you are not well taken care of. If you are out there as a healer, as a person who wants to be better, who wants to see other people be healthy and happy and well, that is all well and good, but you need to make sure you're taking time to rest because otherwise we are not going to sustain the project of life, which is to grow and be a part of one another's community.
oh, and I would say for you neurodivergent listeners out there, that goes times 10
Yes,
for you
yeah.
because we come out in this burst, you know,
Mhm.
and it's amazing. And we get all this stuff done, and oh my God, oh, how do you do that? And now, oh, you're so brilliant, you're a genius. And then where did you go?
Yeah.
You were left for 2 years. What happened? Because we really got to take care of ourselves.
Yeah, because if we don't, our bodies will do it for us. Our
Yes.
bodies will say, I'm done. And so we have to.
Oh, another meme quote. There was like seven, right? And
Yeah, yeah. I mean, listen, lived experience. There was a time a few years ago where my body was like, "We're done. We need a break." And and that was a scary time. And it was during the time where like we were just coming out of the pandemic. I was working so many hours. I can't even tell you how many hours I was working. And my body was like, "Hey, you're human, and I'm going to show you that you're human. So please take care of
I
yourselves. It's
had that
important."
too, dude. I couldn't walk. I literally couldn't walk
Mm.
without excruciating, like knife in your foot pain for two
Oof.
and a half years.
Oh my gosh.
I
Yeah,
had
yeah.
I had a riding accident, but then I think how much when I look at it now, I go, wow, I learned a lot about
Mm.
being in severe pain and feeling like nothing's going to work and about not having mobility.
Yeah.
Nothing, in no way am I trying to compare it to your lived experience. I just mean it was interesting to go, okay, yep,
It's an
this is
empathy exercise, right? It allows you to get a glimpse of what it could be like.
exactly. Thank
Yeah.
you for being kind about
I mean, it's the reality, right? That's why we do
it.
things like have people sit in a wheelchair to see what it's like. It's not to say that you're going to know my experience, but it's so that you can understand the experience.
Well, it's like men having to wear those clamps that are
Mm-hmm.
that copy the a woman giving birth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. Listen, as much as our team wants me to be on social media, there are certain trends I will not do. Count that as one of them. Yeah.
Exactly. You don't need to do that. No.
Yeah, no, 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 no public displays of pain, please. No, thank you.
I'll cry a bucket of tears publicly, but do not catch me in pain.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'll cry when it's authentic to cry. I don't want to be manufactured to cry.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can't. I can't. And then once you get me started, the tears don't stop and I start
yeah.
squeaking like a dolphin and everybody gets embarrassed. It's not a good look.
I know. I tell people all the time, I'm like, I wish I was a pretty crier. I'm not, and I'm just not. Yeah,
Yeah, so I'll do it at home in the bathroom. It's
right,
okay.
right. Exactly that. And crying is good. I always say if we're laughing or crying, it means movement is happening.
Absolutely. Oh, well, tell everyone, please, a little bit about the podcast and
Yeah.
your kind of relaunch of it.
Yeah, I feel like I've been teasing this the whole conversation. So we have a podcast on the network called The Phoenix Unbound, and everybody laughs when I say this, but I'm going to be so honest. The first season was fine, but it was boring, and it was very academic, and I think I reverted back to that academic version of myself that is perhaps an older version of myself. And now I'm realizing that the way that I want to do this is I want to be more authentic, I want to be more real, I want to joke, I want to play, and I want to have serious conversations. I want to be able to hold both. And so now the podcast is coming back with a new energy. I have a co-host now who's one of my close friends and one of the VPs at TPE. And so we're coming back and having these conversations as two therapists who are committed to identity and mental health work. What does it look like to be talking about things like the concept of what is home, the concept of what it means to have community and find interest? We talk about music and musicals. I mean, it's all over the map, all in the service of saying we have to talk about a holistic version of mental health, whatever that looks like for folks.
Right. It's not compartmentalized. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the thing that we've tried to, oh, well, it's just in this therapy room and you do EMDR or you do this thing
Right.
and there's no like vision of what's going on behind, around, above, below somebody because it's just this funnel. And
Yeah.
then we got into family systems where, oh, okay, it's the kind of therapy it's that wraps around someone in all
Mhm.
areas of their life. But even still, that was just it was a bigger funnel, but it was still a funnel. And what you're talking about is like the whole life experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
All of it plays.
We want it to feel like two friends coming together and you're joining us in a conversation about how to be well in the current moment, right? And what to do for ourselves. And we'll have conversations about the inequities and the harms that are happening, but also talking about the ways in which we're caring for ourselves. And my goal this last couple of months and weeks has been to find more fun in the face of the lack of humanity that's been shown across the world. And this has been really fun for me to come back and to share maybe the more playful side of myself in a way that's been really cool.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
So look out for the fall because it's coming. Yeah.
So tell everyone again the name of the podcast and that they'll be able to find it everywhere, right?
Yes, The Phoenix Unbound coming in fall of 2025, probably October. If you're listening to this in September, you're getting very close to the launch date. But we are so excited, and I hope that you'll come hang out with us and have conversation. And then also like tell us what else you want us to talk about, right? Because we're only two people, and so we are very open to that. So The Phoenix Unbound, come hang out with us and come rise with us. That's what we keep telling everybody. We're launching. We're just going to go and it's going to be free and liberated.
I'm excited. And for information, anyone, if you want to go check out Jose's site now, you can go to thephoenixempowered.org and don't do what I do and spell Phoenix wrong 7 different ways.
Yes, and you can find us everywhere at the Phoenix Empowered. We are here. We want community. I really want our socials to really become a place where people can have dialogue and like dialogue with each other. So come hang out with us. Come have some real conversation. We share mental health tips. We also share journal prompts. We share uh, personal things that are happening for me and for our team. And this is just a place for us to be in community. So come hang out with us.
Yeah, and I think I noticed too, people are looking for what you said, safe socials. So online communities that are safe,
Yeah.
and yours is a safe space.
And will always be for anyone who needs it. That is my commitment.
Mm. All right, Jose, I'm so glad that we're
Thank you for having me. Oh, and we're gonna do this again, I hope. Well, I'll come on as many times as you want me to
oh
come on.
God, absolutely all
Yeah,
the time.
yeah,
Listeners, he will be on more.
yeah, for sure.
Tune in for more, and thank you for tuning into this episode of Mental Health News Radio.